President Joe Biden's son Hunter has reached a plea agreement with federal prosecutors in Delaware. David Weiss, the Trump-appointed Trump-appointed U.S. attorney, negotiated the deal where Biden is expected to plead guilty to 2 federal misdemeanor counts of failing to pay his taxes. Hunter Biden owed $100,000 in federal income taxes in 2017-2018, but did not pay them. He also faces a felony gun possession charge from October 12, 2018 through October 23, 2018. He possessed a firearm despite knowing he was an unlawful user of and addicted to a controlled substance. Of course, that will likely be dismissed if he meets certain conditions. The agreement includes a provision in which the U.S. attorney has agreed to recommend probation for Biden for his tax violations. The tax and gun charges will likely not result in any jail time for Biden. Now, this marks the first time the DOJ has brought charges against a child of a sitting president. The decision by Weiss indicates an end to the sweeping 5-year investigation by federal prosecutors, FBI agents, and IRS officials into Hunter Biden's conduct. The Biden administration has kept Weiss in place to avoid having a U.S. attorney appointed by the president to oversee his son's criminal case. The resolution suggests that prosecutors did not find cause to file charges related to Hunter Biden's dealings with foreign entities or other wrongdoing. Now, Republicans are really just beside themselves. And so they've been demanding answers. This is wrong. It's unfair. Y'all, actually, if it wasn't the president's son, it likely would have been civil, not criminal charges. In fact, Weiss actually had to respond to that idiot Congressman Jim Jordan by sending this letter to him. Go to my iPad. He says, your May 25th letter to Attorney General Garland was forwarded to me with a request that I respond on behalf of the department. While your letter does not specify by name the ongoing investigation that is the subject of the committee's oversight, its content suggests your inquiry is related to an investigation in my district. If my assumption is correct, I want to make clear that, as the Attorney General has stated, I have been granted ultimate authority over this matter, including responsibility for deciding where, when, and whether to file charges and for making decisions necessary to preserve the integrity of the prosecution, consistent with federal law, the principles of federal prosecution, and departmental regulations. That was from Weiss to, again, Jim Jordan. Let's go to my panel right now. Larry Walker, assistant professor, University of Central Florida, coming to be out of Florida. Dr. Niambe Carter, associate professor, University of Maryland School of Public Service out of D.C. And we joined later by Tanya Washington Hicks, professor at Georgia State University, College of Law out of Atlanta. And so glad to have y'all here. So let's just be here, Niambe. If it ain't Joe Biden's son, they're not felony charges here. They're civil. I mean, we're talking about $100,000 in didn't pay his taxes. Hell, I think Lauryn Hill owed like $1.5 million, $2-3 million, and so did Wesley Snipes. It's a bunch of people who've owed tax. $100,000 owing taxes is not a big deal. Republicans are beside themselves because they have been making a big deal out of this. But here's the deal. If Donald Trump actually had some real lawyers and wasn't an idiot, he could have easily negotiated a plea deal. But so, no, he's not being treated unfairly. This is what happens when you negotiate deals.
And most of the time, the DOJ pleads cases out. That's 90% of their cases are pleaded out. I mean, I think this is drawing, to me, more interesting questions about how the rest of us get treated. I mean, I would like that people's histories of alcohol or drug addiction be actually used as mitigating factors when we're considering sentencing and other kinds of deals. So I think Republicans are going to use this the ways that we know that they will, right? And beat their chests and talk about that Joe Biden, did something improper, or, what about the emails? What about the computer, right? I mean, they were never going to be pleased because this isn't about justice. This isn't about a rule of law. It's about attaching something to Joe Biden that they can use for the election process and probably take our eye off of Donald Trump's ball, which right now we know is in 2 indictments and numerous other charges. But as you said, Roland, I think this is key. Most things can be negotiated, particularly at this level for people with this level of resources. But what you look at with a person like Donald Trump and those of his ilk is that they refuse, right, to come to the table and have a conversation. I honestly think the smartest thing Biden could have done here is keep Weiss, who is a Trump appointee, in place, because otherwise they would have really had a field day suggesting that he put his thumb on the scales in some way to prevent his son from facing a higher level of scrutiny. But as you noted, many people owe taxes at this amount of money. This is not the kind of money that typically gets people put in prison. But anything short of prison, they're going to say is unreasonable, unfair, and somehow unjust.
I really love how it's driving these folks crazy, Larry.
They're losing it on social media, Roland. I mean, listen, my colleague highlighted really a lot of important points. The bottom line is, and we know that they have the committee on weaponization. The bottom line is, like my colleague said, they want something to use as leverage when it comes to Joe Biden when he runs for president again next year. This is about the politics. This is nothing about the quote unquote rule of law, which we hear about all the time. And they're losing their minds. But Roland, they didn't lose their minds over Trump University or the Trump Foundation. I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear those same concerns raised. I certainly don't hear the concerns raised of all the money Kushner got from the Saudis and various other foreign entities to bail him out. So we don't hear any conversation about that. But we're constantly hearing and like I said, this constant conversation about Joe Biden and what his DOJ is doing. Highlighted once again, as in the beginning of the show, is that this individual, this attorney at DOJ, was appointed by Trump in 2018, and the FBI director is also a Republican. So, but they're consistently excuses for every single thing. And once again, they don't have they can't do anything about it. Now, this is a situation that's particularly coming to an end. But of course, we'll continue to hear about it on social media and right-wing media outlets. There's some kind of conspiracy. But the bottom line is, when it comes to real concrete issues, like the recent indictment of Trump, you don't want to hear about that. But everything else is a conspiracy, and Joe Biden is using the DOJ, which is not accurate. Obviously, this case is based on the letter and what we see today. This is supposed to be the end, but we'll constantly hear about it over the next couple of months of an example of DOJ and Biden, somehow the Biden administration utilizing it to get his son out of jail.
I love the right wingers, Tanya, complaining there are two levels of justice. Yeah, black people being know that.
Absolutely. That's been our experience for as long as we've been on these lands. And I would like to see the law exercised with such compassion when we're talking about Black people who are addicted and who have committed crimes that are related to their addiction. I think that the compassion that the president is showing for his son is appropriate for a parent to express toward their child. But I want to make sure that Black people who are suffering from some of these same illnesses are treated with the same kind of compassion.
No, absolutely. I just think these people are just so hilarious to me. I mean, all the whining, complaining, that's what they do. So bottom line is, there you go. Hunter, now he'll plead, he won't go to jail, and so be it. But it goes to show you exactly, in terms of how they roll, how they feel. And I really don't care. And of course, they don't care about the $2 billion that Jared got from the Saudis. You want to talk about how to utilize your position. Let's talk about that.